Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel. My name is Mike. I'm continuing my 2014 NFL free agent rankings, and this video is for who I feel the top 10 free agent running backs available in the 2014 class. You'll see as I run down this list, I think there's guys who, all these guys can definitely be contributors on NFL teams next year, at minimum be part of a two-back system and be an integral part of it. And some of these guys towards the top of the list, I think have a chance to be feature backs on teams next year. And with running backs, it's tricky because you got to take into account their age. How close are they to 30? If they're younger than 30 even, how much tread do they have on those legs? So all that was taken into account. I'm in my list here. Let's start off at number 10. At number 10, I have James Starks, who last year obviously played on the Green Bay Packers. He's a guy who averaged over 5 yards a carry backing up Eddie Lacy. And there's some thinking that maybe he can be a starting back. When I think of Starks, I think of him as the perfect change of pace back, not a feature back. I think he loses his value basically the more carries you have him take on. So James Starks in a priority backup role in at number 10. At number 9, I have Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden's going to be 29 years old when the season starts next year. He's out the last 2 years. He's kind of taken a nosedive, only averaging 3.5 yards a carry in those 2 years. He was outshined this year certainly by Rashad Jennings, his teammate, who was also a free agent as well. McFadden, maybe in a different scenario, maybe he has one more good year left in him, but at this point can't at all be the feature back he was earlier in his career. He just lost some or maybe even most of his explosiveness he had at the beginning of his career. That's why I have McFadden here at number 9. At number 8, I have the one guy on this list that is a restricted free agent, and that's Joique Bell. Joique Bell, obviously from the Detroit Lions last year. This is a guy who 2 straight years has now had over 50 catches. So you get a guy who's, I think, a pretty good runner as well, a well-rounded back. But remember, he is a free agent. He is a restricted free agent. So we'll see what kind of tender the Lions place on him. But Joique Bell in at number 8. Again, 2 seasons in a row with over 50 catches. In at number 7 is where I have Rashad Jennings. Rashad Jennings, to me, 29 years old. Not many people realize he is 29. Because remember, he was in Jacksonville, a place where he did not flourish at all, which made it all the more confusing. When he goes on to have this good year here with the Raiders, running like he did, you wonder where that was in Jacksonville. But I think he certainly carved out a niche for himself in Oakland. We'll see if Oakland tries to bring him back. Do they think he's a little too far along in his career? If not, someone else is again going to end up with a guy who runs hard. And maybe, the Raiders' offensive line, while it wasn't great by any means, certainly a lot better than some of those lines the Jaguars ran out there in recent memory. So maybe that had a lot to do with it. But Rashad Jennings, coming off a strong 2013, putting himself in good position in this class to get a nice little payday, and I think have a pretty big role on whatever team he lands with. And at number 6, I have LeGarrette Blount. And Blount's a guy who maybe 2 months ago wouldn't have been on this list, but obviously how he's played down the stretch here with the Patriots has been, sort of a revelation. If he's given big money, what kind of effort can you expect? Do off-the-field problems start to crop up again? Is he completely past all that stuff? Because he's only 27 years old, and he should have a lot left in the tank. He doesn't have a lot of tread on his legs, but again, would you give him big money if you were a GM or an owner? That is the question that these teams are going to have to ask. I think it's best for him. He's found a nice little spot there in New England. I think at a manageable contract, they'd be willing to bring him back. Look for him to return to New England, a place where he's had a lot of success here, especially later in the season and into the playoffs. And at number 5, I have Andre Brown. Andre Brown, another guy who's going to be 27 at the start of next year. This is a guy who's very underrated in my eyes. I know he missed a bulk of this year, of course, with his injury. It was not something that you expect to crop up again, certainly. He's a good blocker, all right? He's a very aggressive runner in between the tackles, and he's pretty good catching the football as well. He's a very well-rounded back, and the Giants obviously still have to hash out what's going on with David Wilson. I think a team's going to come in and give Andre Brown more money than the Giants think, and they're going to have to pony up some money if they want to keep him. And if not, he's a guy I could see being a feature back in this league. Obviously, there's not many quintessential feature backs anymore, but I think he can be a lead guy. I might be in the minority on that, but I think in the right situation, he can be a lead guy for a team because he can play on all three downs. Andre Brown at number 5. At number 4, I have Donald Brown, just a shade ahead of Andre there at number 4. Donald Brown averaged over 5 yards a carry this year for the Colts, running in back of an offensive line that is not that great, to be quite frank about it. I think we all saw that this year, certainly. He catches the ball very well out of the backfield. He didn't get deterred this year when they brought in Trent Richardson, a little competition for him. We saw his game rise. I like that about him. He hasn't had an over amount. He hasn't been, running to the ground by any means. He, too, is 27 years old, like a lot of the guys on this list. And at minimum, he's going to be a very serious part of a two-back system. I don't think he'll ever be thought of as a workhorse type back, but as a change of pace and certainly a guy catching the ball out of the backfield. Donald Brown, a guy I like at number 4 there, the running back out of UConn. At number 3, I have Maurice Jones-Drew, and there's a lot of different feelings on Jones-Drew. I look at the season Rashad Jennings had after he left Jacksonville with the Raiders. You have to remember, I know Jones-Drew, between the injuries and the production, it sort of looks like he's falling off a cliff here career-wise. I think he still has a couple good years left in the tank. I think he's going to get on another team, all right, that's going to utilize him differently, that can't help but have a better offensive line than the Jaguars. And I think he's a guy that has another 1,000-yard season in him. And again, I know I might be in the minority on that, but I certainly think that. Maurice Jones-Drew, obviously his accomplishments are well known. He's the guy with the most miles on those legs on this list. But at 29, I think he has another good year or two left in him. Maurice Jones-Drew at number 3. At number 2, I have Knowshon Moreno. Moreno coming off of a career year this year with the Broncos. I don't look for the Broncos to necessarily bring him back because remember, they have to re-sign Eric Decker, and they drafted Monte Ball to sort of be the starting running back there. So I don't know if the Broncos bring him back because I think he's going to get a decent payday, again, because of the season he had this year. I worry about a guy that only really played good in his contract year, but I think some team will pay him, and he is a dual-threat guy. He can catch the ball, and again, had a very nice season this year, which is why he comes in at number 2 on our list. And at number 1, I have Ben Tate. And Ben Tate, 26 years old, played this year when Arian Foster got hurt with that rib injury. Now, I look at that as a guy entering free agency on a team that was going absolutely nowhere, has a rib injury, and he still plays and plays hard. To me, that means a lot. And I think when NFL teams look at that, it's going to mean a lot. Is he a little bit injury prone? Yes, but a lot of guys on this list are. If you notice some of the names I've been rattling off here, he is only 26 years old. He was second fiddle to Arian Foster. Remember, if Ben Tate doesn't get hurt in that 2010 preseason and Arian Foster takes over and has the success he had, we might have been looking at Ben Tate as a 1 or 2 time Pro Bowler here in my eyes. So does he still have that kind of Pro Bowl stuff left in him? I think that's his ceiling. I think his ceiling is like a Michael Turner type of career, which is certainly I think he'd sign for right now. Michael Turner was good there for that 4 or 5 year stint with the Falcons. But Ben Tate, 26, a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield, run hard for you. Finally getting out of Arian Foster's shadow at number 1, my best free agent running back available, Ben Tate. Guys, let me know what you think of my list. Is there a guy I left off? Do you like where I have these guys ranked here? Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter as well. I'm doing these lists position by position. Also doing a lot of NFL draft stuff. Finishing out the NFL season here with analyzing the conference championship games and the Super Bowl, and always doing NFL offseason stuff. 365 days a year, the NFL right here on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. It's absolutely free. Thanks again for listening. Have a great night.